Hello beer nerds. Today we're going to be talking about flow control, flow restriction, getting rid of the foam in your beer. There's all kinds of different ways to do this, and I'm going to cover sort of the main ones that I have encountered. And as you can see, I've got a collection of different things for that purpose. Mainly the thing that you use the most is just a big 15 feet of hose. And then what is all this colorful stuff underneath? Well, that's what we're going to talk about. Because what we wanted to do is figure out a cheap way to have flow control. And not necessarily for the cost so much as convenience and just being able to put it into our kits and just what makes sense. Because when you're doing a direct draw straight out of a keg, normally, I mean, if you're just snapping the tap straight on there, you're going to have no restriction. So normally in a keg, what you have is about 15 feet of hose. Now this one, we got some hose and a hose, and that's what we're going to discuss today. So you get about 15 feet of hose coming off your Sankey keg, going up to your tap in your kegerator, and I'll cut to a sample of what's in my fridge. And that's how you do it. So you got the keg sitting at, say, the average, 12 psi. And by the time you get it to the tap, you want to put enough drag on the line so that the beer that is at a carbonation level of 12 psi, by the time it gets to the tap, it's coming out of the tap at around 3 to 5 psi. I mean, there's all kinds of charts online. You can go look this up. I'll put some links. But that's the gist of it. Now, when you're doing it straight out of a keg, here's a 4-liter keg I just grabbed. When you're coming straight out of a keg, you've got nothing, especially if you're just using a tap. So if you get this at 12 psi, what I was always encouraging people to do is let off the pressure and then gently push the beer out with the regulator at about 3 psi. So then, a buddy of mine, Dwight, shout out to Dwight, got the idea. We were discussing it one day about the 12 feet of wire, or 12 to 15 feet of wire. And what if you made the wire or the hose smaller? And so then we experimented with these tiny little hoses. We played around with these for a while, going down to 5/16 inner diameter. No, smaller than that. But we found these flimsy. We got thinner ones, and it just it wasn't what we were looking for. But then he got the idea. I mean, we were talking about this back and forth, just as a joke for, I don't know, a year or more. But then one day he came back and he was all excited because he took some whippersnipper wire and shoved it in. And that's what all this is. Here is the different types of whippersnipper wire that he tested. And then he gave me a bunch, and then I would test it too, and then we'd go back and forth, and it was quite the adventure. And we realized that it was working. And it was cheap. Now, I mean, you don't really want to stick whippersnipper hose into your beer lines. I contacted the manufacturer to see if it would be a problem or if they had some food grade, maybe fishing line or something like that. But we didn't come across anything for sure. But we knew it worked. And I mean, to be very honest with you, I mean, you can chew on this. I don't taste any off flavors. Honestly, I chewed on one I kept it in my mouth for like 15 minutes just to see if I could detect anything. So I was happily using this. I would tell people about it, but I couldn't sell it as a commercial product because, it's not officially food grade. Until, and we'll get that out of the way, we came across something that is food grade, and that's these liquid hoses here. And sure enough, they had them all the way down to these tiny little sizes here. And so what that allowed us to do is stick a hose in a hose. And so then we started experimenting with that. And I'm going to show you the results from that test. Now, before I move on, some of you've seen these. I mean, CM Beckers, they got the... And what it is it's always just a cone. So you get some kind of laminar flow over it, and it's coming out the other end. And every single one of these is some variation on this concept. This one's for, well, This one's for like a backpack server, and like a like if you're going to go to a sporting event or something, you'd walk around, you could do serving like that. So then, yeah, and they got inline ones, same concept, but you're not going to be able to use that with a direct pour like this keg, right? Where are you going to put it? You can't use these kinds of taps because you're connecting directly onto the shank. Here, let me get that. Yeah, so if you got this kind of thing, you got nowhere to put that cone. Now, the Intertap ones and the new NukaTap ones, you can use that because they keep the ball. The ball is small. And so you can do this. You can go ahead and this would be something that I would recommend if people really want flow restriction on their kegs. You can go ahead and spend, I think it's almost $80 for one of these taps. But you know it's cheaper than $80? A piece of hose. And so we started experimenting, and I gotta say something. I've done all kinds of tests with these. They also have quick disconnects. This one's not doesn't have it, but they've got a version that's a little taller. I ordered 5 of them just to test them out, and I end up giving them away or selling them to people. So I don't have one in my hand to go over, but it's just like this, and then the flow restriction is right up here. I'll link that too. There's I think a video where Key's talking about it. So I've tried them all. I've tried this. I've tried the flow restriction this way. I mean, it's just another CM Becker one. But it's the same concept over and over again. It's just, you know, it's a cone, right? In there, same. So we can't use any of the cones. Some of these Pluto guns, they offer a certain amount of flow restriction going through them, and then you add this with this one's stainless steel one. Here's one that we use. This is the most popular one right here, and you use this with the EVA hose, a little adapter on there. And people like to use this with about 10 feet of hose, and then you don't need to put the hose in a hose, but I'll show you that. The point of this video is really to just show you the research that I've done, or sort of my thought process up to this point, so that you guys can run with this and get back to me with your results, because this is just a really cheap way to solve the flow control issue, and it's working. So I just wanted to bring it out to you guys because we're throwing a little extra hose in with all the kits now, because why not? It's pennies to throw these in, maybe 25 cents worth of hose, and depending on the temperature of your beer or how much you shook up and all these things, you shove that in there, and this could solve your problems for very cheap. You don't have to buy a hose from me. You got your own system there. You can find something to shove in the line. What we found with all these, though, was that it always puts the restriction in a single point. And what works so great about using 15 feet of hose is that it's gently bringing that pressure down, over putting drag over the whole course of the hose. And we've really found that was the secret. Anytime we tried to put a single pinch point, like we tried stoppering up the bottom of the caps and just any kind of thing, it just created a whole bunch of foam. And honestly, I don't find that these work very well. I mean, the Pluto gun is not trying to do a single point, so that's giving you a restriction there, and it's a nicer pour. But and then I wanted to think about price too, because I like to skin a cat at cheapest price. Having said that, I just wanted to share this because this is kind of funny. You know what this is? That's the cheapest tap you can make. I just did it one day. I was like, wait a minute. The cheapest possible way you can, instead of spending $80 on that, you can spend like $5 on this, and it would essentially do the same thing. And if you see what I'm doing here right now, you put a little bit of flow restriction in there and a little bit more on your dip tube. This might work better, to be honest. We'll see. I mean, I've done a lot of tests with this, but I haven't tried every possible combination. I mean, I got my son is my priority, to be honest. Okay, so what we kind of settled on for now is using this food grade hose in one of 2 hoses that we carry. The silicone hose is what we use for our dip tubes, and it's a 5mm inner hose. It's always good to slice it with a little angle so that every once in a while, this thing will get stuck directly to the bottom of the keg. It's so rare, but it's happened a couple times. It's funny almost. So yeah, you got your dip tube here, and then you just take this 4mm hose, and that goes in there. Hose and a hose. So we sell 2 restriction hose. One's a little thinner, one's a little thicker. The one that's a little thicker goes into the silicone lines. And this is also what we use for the picnic tap on the pop tap kits. We also sell a picnic tap kit, which comes with the fridge tap kit, because you want something a little bit more robust. And because the idea with the fridge tap kit is that you are leaving it in the fridge for long-term storage, and you want to be able to keep it cranked up to 10, 12 psi so that you can serve your beer. So then we crimp these. We make sure that there's no chance that you're going to come back to your fridge and have a leak. The pop tap kit, you could put clamps on them if you were going to use it for that purpose, and I would recommend that. But generally, the pop tap kits are meant to just be brought out camping. You drink them that night. If you have a leak, you tighten it up. Well, you're not going to have a leak unless you're using it incorrectly, because those are rated. I've tested them up to 35 psi, and you're not going to get any leaks. Okay, so what's in here? And you can see that was a slightly different color on that hose. And then it's just a case of a hose within a hose again. And so now I'm going to show you how that works in a live demo. You can also use, you got the EVA hose here with the 4mm inner diameter and 5mm inner diameter. And you can put hose in a hose with these too. And what that might allow you to do is with your kegerator, your full-size kegerator, like I've done here. This is EVA hose with hose and a hose. And I've experimented with this, and it seems like I can get pretty good results with about 4 feet of hose coming straight off my Sankey keg going at my tap. I generally don't do it. Well, actually, I got 3 versions. I don't have it set up right now, but I was doing some tests. So I had the one hose going, and you can see it in the video here. One goes 15 feet to the tap, because that's the normal standard setup that most people use. I'm using the 4mm for that. And then I got 5mm going like straight to the tap with the quick disconnect on it. You can see in the video. And then the third option is all coming off the same keg. I was just testing, was 4 feet with the hose and a hose. But I keep tweaking that one. That's why I don't have it set up right now. That, and to be honest, in the winter, my fridge kind of gets frozen sometimes when it's minus 36 out there. It's great today. It was actually about 10 degrees. So that's that, blah, blah, blah. I do not say blah, blah, blah. So let's have a look at how it works. And so what I did, yeah, I'll go get that. I'll be right back. Oh, before I move on, one other thing we did, if you want super restriction, we played around with the hose and a hose, but then corking it, and you could use whatever amount of silicone or whatever thing you want to use the cork. I used whippersnipper wire, and if you cork even just one end of it, we found that you could put a tap straight on a keg like this. We did it actually with the shorter 2-liter. And with this amount of hose and hose, we could pour, I think, 15 psi out of this tap straight out of the keg just by putting that much restriction on it, and no foam. So I'm going to show you that demo right now. Okay, check this out. We got 2 pop bottles here. We'll move this out of the frame. So what we have here, I filled this one up this morning, the Canada Dry one, to do this demo today. And then it occurred to me that I really should do a side-by-side. So I just filled this one up. So this one's had time to settle. So this one actually has an unfair advantage. This one, you can even see the bubbles still coming up. But this one has a flow restriction tube in it, and this one has nothing. And what I'm going to do, Okay, I think I got everything. I thought I had this all figured out, but I had to do some scrambling around. So here we go. We'll throw together the kind of normal picnic tap hose you would have. Like I said, this shoved right onto here is good for upwards to 35, 40 psi. So unless you're doing it in a fridge long-term storage, that's good enough. Okay, now, so we've got over here regular picnic hose with, and the reason I'm using the pop bottles here is so you can see exactly what's going on. All this goes, of course, for kegs the same way. And here we've got flow restriction in the dip tube and in the hose. So I decided to do two here because we'll pour that completely unrestricted into this glass. We'll pour double restriction into this glass, and then we'll switch this over to that one to see what we get with just restriction in the picnic hose. I got two regulators that I had just to prep here. And so you can see that if you put up the PSI up here, turn it off, it sits and holds pressure. Get that glare off of there. And then when I let go, it goes down to 0. Same with this one. We just crank it up, turn it off. You can see it's holding pressure, and then face camera. So same. And I just put in 2 fresh cartridges. That's what I was doing. So now we're going to snap these on here. Got them set to off. And then I'm going to set each of them to, what should we do? When I snapped it onto the keg, it's sitting at 15 psi, so that means that's what the beer is at. This one here is at pretty well the same thing. So you know what? Let's just try pouring them with the existing pressure that's in the kegs, because yeah, they're sitting at about the same. This one's a little higher, which is strange. I gotta stop shaking them up. We're not gonna get a valve. Well, I mean, if I'm shaking them equally, who cares, right? I really got to get in my head to maybe start doing these over a sink. Certain ones, I don't think I'm going to be able to shoot videos at my desk for everything, but we're going to attempt this, and I'm probably going to regret it. So let's get that on there. Like that, and then we got the flow restriction one going on here. Like this. So then we'll push the 2 kegs just up at the top there. We'll bring the glasses out front here so you can see everything. Let's tilt this so the regulator's not blocking our view. Okay, so here's the test with it. Oh, which one do I do first? I guess we'll do the non-restrictive. So let's see what we get. And this is just letting off the residual. And that's what we got. Hold up to this camera here. And so right now it's kind of evening out, and the regulator should say 0. And yeah, and the bottle's getting a little squishy. So right now we're at baseline. Let's see what we get with this. I have a feeling it's going to be a pretty similar result. You can see the glass is filling a lot slower. And that's sort of the part of the tweaking of this, is that get it to the exact point. Like we got double restriction here, so that's a lot, right? I wouldn't say this is the way to go. I'd say the way to go is open dip tubes in both of them and just the restrictive hose. And then you crank up the PSI to get the nice flow rate, and as opposed to and so yeah, before that has time to settle down. So there you go. I mean, these have had no time to settle. Exact same beer coming out of the exact same Sankey keg. Everything about this, I mean, same. So then I'm going to crank each one of these up to, I'll go to 10 psi. See that? 10 psi. And then, I mean, and this one's not even all the way down yet, as you can see. I mean, I have no motivation to cheat at this because I'm just showing you this so you guys can do it. I want you to tell me your results. I got this concept here of a really cheap way to do flow restriction. And I just wanted to show you to get you excited. And you come back, tell me how it worked for you. I mean, what am I trying to sell you here? 20 cents a hose? God. As opposed to selling you all this flow restriction stuff for $80, $90, $100. No, this is bad for business, but this truth, right? So here we go. Should I do it with both? I'll do it to both cameras. Let's see if I can do this. I mean, it's just going to make a huge mess. You can't serve beer with no flow restriction. You can't do it. So that's 10 psi. So let's do the same thing here. We got with our flow restriction. It's hard to do this in front of the camera. Get my angle right there. It's really, the cameras just are not lined up here well for this, but so I mean it's slower, but you can see that and this will settle down over time, but the other problem with it is that this has already been knocked out of suspension. So this beer, as you drink it, will just be less fizzy, even once the foam settles. Where this is going to be a lot more foamy or carbonated, crispy. Yeah, already this one's much more carbonated. Okay, so let's switch them. Okay, I had to go get some glasses because those are full. Pretty well, same. It doesn't matter. So now we're going to take this off of here. We're still recording. Yep, we're just going to take this off of here, and we're going to swap them. Let's see what happens. And we'll do the one with the... So there now we've got some flow restriction. So this is an improvement. But still pretty foamy. But definitely an improvement. Everything's still at 10 psi? Yes. And here we have flow restriction in just the picnic hose. And I think this is the way to go because you can see it's flowing faster. But still maintaining nice flow control. And so this is at a full 10 psi. So these two are definitely an improvement over the last two, right? And so that's what I wanted to show you, is that with this tiny little bit of hose, all of a sudden with the fridge tap kit, and that's why we sell these exact hose here with the flow restriction and it crimped and everything, is so that you can use your mini kegs or a pop bottle or whatever in the fridge and just leave it at 10 psi all the time, keeping your beer carbonated right down to the last drop. And you could never do this before with a direct pour system. I always had to tell people to let off the pressure, pour their glass, and put it back on. You will go through a little bit more CO2 if you're leaving it on there, and that's why the fridge tap kit, we don't suggest these. That's the point of the fridge tap kit, is you would use a SodaStream canister or a paintball cylinder. Pardon me. See, it is bubbly. And that's the whole deal. I think that's, so try it out. I mean, in the kits is all those little blue hoses. I get people ask me what the heck is this for? And this is what it's for, is to for you to dabble and get your own results. All right, so that's the explanation on these blue hoses and their flow restriction. And let me know your results. Leave comments down below, and let me know how it worked out for you. I mean, it's a super cheap way. And keep the questions coming, and I'll talk to you soon. Actually, before we go, so the way I filled these 2 bottles was using the direct fill method. So I did film it with my phone. And I'm gonna put that here next to me. Okay, so we're gonna do it with a pop bottle today because you can see going in there then. So we got Pop Tap kit here, and this is a pre-mixed Star San. And so we're just gonna put some in here. Enough to coat everything. Thoroughly coated, and then we're going to put some pressure on this. Then we're going to use our jumper. So let's see this. For ease, I just use an additional one of these, but you could use your finger. So there you can see. Right. So then we're going to take this one off, and we're going to replace it with this, tightened up, and I guess we could spray this, although there's no need. So now you get that holding at 15 psi. And then we can open up this, and then turning this. Nothing's flowing with this. And there we have it. No foam, very little. Completely pressurized at a perfect 15 psi, I think I had it cranked up to. And then we just store this in the fridge. Don't even have to clean it because it's just going to stay fresh like the rest of the beer. And this never touched anything at all, so it's no cleaning there.